Colin Cowherd is back on the Caitlin Clark train, and he's back calling out the haters.
Colin Cowherd just lit a match under the entire WNBA conversation. On one of the biggest sports platforms in the country, he looked straight into the camera and said what countless Caitlin Clark fans have been frustrated about for weeks. No more soft excuses, no more carefully crafted talking points. His message was direct and impossible to ignore. According to Cowherd, Caitlin Clark doesn't need minor tweaks, lineup experiments, or another process adjustment. She needs a better coach. And then came the moment that made the criticism hit even harder after Clark exploded for 17 fourth quarter points and dragged her team back from a 9-point hole. Stephanie White was asked directly about her performance. Fans expected praise for the player who completely changed the game. Instead, the answer quickly shifted toward broad team-focused comments and generic basketball talk. To many viewers, that response spoke volumes. And before we dive deeper into why this situation has become so intense, you need to understand the basketball context behind all of it.
Let's listen to him, man.
So Caitlin Clark, third season in the WNBA, has already set the record. She had another game in which she had at least 20 points and 10 assists. And I have been saying when she broke into the league, people said her comp is Steph Curry. Now, I think stylistically, the way she plays her game has got some Steph Curry. I think, though, in terms of an iconic player, she's more Michael Jordan.
The Indiana Fever fell to the Washington Mystics, 104-102 in a brutal double overtime battle. And for most of the night, Caitlin Clark looked completely out of rhythm. Through the first 3 quarters, the Mystics threw relentless defensive pressure at her, forcing tough shots and disrupting every offensive set. Clark started the game, shooting just 4 for 20 from the floor, struggling to find space inside an offense that often looked cramped and stagnant. But then everything changed in the fourth quarter. Caitlin Clark suddenly erupted. She took over the game like a superstar, refusing to let her team collapse. Shot after shot started falling. Deep threes, clutch buckets, momentum-changing plays. She completely flipped the energy inside the arena. Clark knocked down 5 of her 7 attempts from beyond the arc and poured in 17 points in the final quarter alone. Indiana still came up short in the end, losing in double overtime, but Clark's performance was undeniable. It was pure determination from a franchise player who refused to quit. And then came the post-game moment that immediately sparked backlash. During the press conference, a reporter directly asked head coach Stephanie White about Clark's incredible fourth quarter takeover, specifically mentioning her resilience and those 5 massive 3-pointers. The question couldn't have been clearer, but instead of focusing on Clark, White shifted the conversation toward the team as a whole. She talked about collective effort. She praised the group's toughness. She emphasized players buying into the system and staying together. It sounded like the standard coach speak fans hear all the time. The problem? She somehow answered an entire question about Caitlin Clark's unbelievable 17-point fourth quarter without truly giving Clark direct credit for being the reason Indiana even had a chance to win the game.
Record! Colin Cowherd went on record and stated she is not the coach for CC, bruh. Now listen to NBC reporters during the game, y'all. Listen to this right here.
Tonight, Caitlin Clark has been responsible for 38 of Indiana's 77.
The reaction online was instant, and it was brutal. The moment hit social media, and the discourse exploded across every platform. One fan cut right to the core of it, writing, "She tries to sound like Greg Popovich, but she coaches like Doc Rivers." Another didn't hold back either. "This is exactly why White isn't the right coach for Caitlin Clark. She doesn't want her to stand out." And a third comment summed up the frustration even more bluntly. "This coach and this franchise are a mess." These weren't random outliers or casual hot takes. They reflected a growing sentiment from a highly engaged fan base that has been watching the tension around Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White build since day one. The frustration hasn't appeared overnight. It's been building with every game, every press conference, every missed moment. What's interesting is that mainstream coverage rarely focuses on what fans are actually reacting to. Stephanie White's consistent refusal to directly name Caitlin Clark when she delivers these big performances. And in the world of professional sports leadership, that detail detail matters more than it might seem. There are essentially two types of coaches in situations like this. The first type recognizes the moment for what it is. They step to the microphone and say it plainly. Caitlin Clark was incredible tonight. She hit 5 threes in the fourth quarter when the offense was stuck. She carried us when we needed it most. That kind of acknowledgement isn't just praise. It builds trust, confidence, and the kind of culture where star players elevate an entire franchise. The second type avoids that entirely. They lean into team language. They talk about collective effort, buy-in, and group resilience. It's safe, it's inclusive, and in a technical sense, it's not wrong. Basketball is a team game. No single player does it alone. But what that approach often misses is timing. In professional sports, timing is everything. Moments define careers. And that fourth quarter against the Mystics was one of those moments for Caitlin Clark. She didn't just play well, she took over the game. She earned that spotlight. The argument from fans is simple. She owned the moment, but Stephanie White chose not to acknowledge it.
Calm down, everybody, and definitely don't read the comments. But whatever the case may be, Caitlin Clark need her Phil Jackson. And as of right now, the closest thing to Caitlin Clark, Phil Jackson, is Lisa Bluter. And the Indiana Fever need to figure out a way to get that young lady. I'm gonna call her a young lady.
And the contradiction became impossible to ignore just minutes later, still inside the same press conference. A reporter shifted the focus to Kelsey Mitchell, who had started the night ice cold, going 0 for 7 early in the game. And suddenly, Stephanie White's tone completely changed. This time, there was no hesitation to highlight an individual performance. She praised Mitchell, called her effort outstanding, and even said she was speechless at what she brought to the game. Mitchell, in that moment, was framed as someone who carried the team, so the pattern became hard for fans to miss. When Caitlin Clark turns a game around, it's labeled as team effort and collective resilience. But when another player heats up after a slow start, she gets singled out as the hero who lifted everyone. That inconsistency is exactly what has fueled growing frustration around the Fever's locker room dynamic and overall team culture. And this is where Colin Cowherd's national TV segment ties directly into the bigger conversation. His entire argument echoes this same underlying tension he believes is building around Clark's usage and role within the system. Over the past few weeks, he's been openly critical of how the offense is being structured around her, and he's come to a blunt conclusion. The system doesn't match the player. From that perspective, systems built around constant rotation, equal touches, and shared ball handling aren't necessarily flawed in general, but when applied to a player with Clark's rare, once-in-a-generation offensive gravity, they can actually limit the very thing that makes her unstoppable. To be clear, this isn't about questioning Stephanie White as a coach or as a person. She is widely respected, experienced, and proven. She led a depleted Fever roster to a semifinal run last season without Clark and has already won a Commissioner's Cup. Her resume is solid, built over 2 decades in the league. None of that is in dispute. But Cowherd's argument isn't about credentials or character, it's about fit. And in his framing, when it comes to a player like Caitlin Clark, fit matters more than reputation, experience, or even coaching legacy.
And I've always felt her game is Steph. I think she has a chance to be Jordan-esque, which is multiple championships if she can get the right coach and the right running mate. And I think she has that player.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that slight at Stephanie White? He says she has the right player, but she don't got the right coach. Caitlin Clark need her field.
A great hammer and a precision screw simply aren't designed to work the same way, and in that sense, the pairing of Stephanie White's traditional balanced offense philosophy with Caitlin Clark's fast-paced, high-usage, heliocentric style might just be an uncomfortable fit rather than a seamless match. Now, 4 games into the season, the results are starting to speak loudly. A 2-2 record, 2 heartbreaking overtime losses at home, and an arena that is suddenly showing thousands of empty seats. The evidence isn't subtle anymore. It's stacking up fast. During the Seattle Storm matchup at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, nearly 3,000 seats were visibly empty. That's a stunning contrast to just 1 year ago when Caitlin Clark was selling out every arena she stepped into. Fans who once rushed to see her are now making a statement with their wallets, and it's becoming impossible for the organization to ignore. She doesn't look like a player confused by the system. She looks like a superstar who knows exactly what she's capable of and is tired tired of being held back from it. At this point, if Stephanie White wants to steady the situation, quiet the national criticism, and stop the financial and cultural bleed surrounding the franchise, something has to change. The ego has to go. Adjustments aren't optional anymore. They're necessary, and that's where WNBA Pro steps in, because there are 3 clear non-negotiable adjustments that need to happen immediately if this situation is going to stabilize before it fully unravels. No emotion, no narratives, just basketball reality.
4. So Caitlin comes into the league, rookie sensation. Year 2, last year she's hurt. Year 3, okay, her stats are great again. When is she going to start winning at the next level? She has not won a playoff series yet. And so my take is she has her Pippen.
Fix number 1. Stephanie White needs to acknowledge Caitlin Clark when the moment demands it. Not in every answer, not in every press conference, but in those defining moments when your franchise point guard takes over a game in the 4th quarter. The head coach has to be able to stand at the podium, look into the camera, and say her name. That isn't favoritism or hype. It's simply telling the truth about what just happened on the floor. And in elite sports, that kind of honesty builds trust, clarity, and the foundation of a true championship culture between a coach and a star player. Fix number 2. There needs to be transparency around the Shatori Walker-Kimbrough rotation decisions. 3 straight games with no minutes, followed by a confusing minimal run in garbage time, raises obvious questions. No explanation, no context, no communication. Fans aren't asking for inside playbooks. They're asking for basic accountability. If a proven veteran scorer is being buried on the bench while Caitlin, Clark, and Kelsey Mitchell are pushed into heavy 35-38 minute workloads, the reasoning has to be clear. Because when communication disappears, speculation takes over. Fix number 3. The off-ball Caitlin Clark narrative has to stop dominating the conversation. After just a handful of games, it's already become the loudest storyline in the building, and much of that is because it keeps getting reinforced in post-game comments and media availability. The solution isn't just changing the approach, it's stopping the constant verbal spotlight on it. Let the court do the talking. Build the offense around Clark, let her control the tempo, and allow her natural playmaking gravity to define the system. When the basketball speaks clearly, the noise dies on its own. This is exactly why Colin Cowherd's comments hit so strongly across the sports world. He wasn't introducing a new idea, he was putting into words what a large portion of fans already felt. The talent is undeniable. The roster, even with its frontcourt limitations, is capable of competing. But the debate keeps circling back to one thing: how the team is being coached and utilized. And that kind of national spotlight doesn't fade after one win or a carefully worded press conference. It only changes through consistent results on the floor. The Indiana Fever are back in action this week, and every game now carries massive scrutiny. Each possession becomes another data point in a growing national debate about whether Stephanie White is the right fit for Caitlin Clark, or whether adjustments need to happen at a much deeper level. WNBA Pro will be tracking every moment, because now the entire basketball world is watching closely, including ownership, media, and a fan base that is no longer patient with empty promises. Clark needs the right structure around her, whether that means tactical evolution, philosophical change, or something more drastic. The situation is reaching a turning point. Performances like 3 0-point efforts in losing overtime games, growing sections of empty seats, sideline frustration caught on camera, and superstar moments that aren't fully acknowledged all point to one thing: this isn't just about basketball decisions anymore. It's about the direction of an entire franchise. The debate is only heating up. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.